Okay, we are live. Live, people. Hello, Hyrulean, Hyrulean gamer. Fleet Lord Atvar says, I only have 37K subs, almost 38. But, wow, I mean, that's like really sad, right? I'm like a really nobody here. James Mason, Jiff, Flo. Who did I miss here? Jordan Kwong. Yeah, it's apparently 30, close to 38 subs is like 38K subs is really bad. Yeah, so I'll work on it. It's kind of tough. I've only been here a year, a little over a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. So, YouTube has to like you. The algorithm has to like you. So, welcome, folks. Hello, entire Meyer, Nemo, 777, Blacklight Revelations. Blacklight, is that Roberto? Hello, Jay. Vulcan. Keith in Miami. Hello, Keith, my buddy. How you doing? Majuti. Mamagoo. Hello, Mamagoo. 9 volt. Yes, sir. Blacklight is Roberto. Hello. Okay, so let me just before I get into small talk here, let's clarify what the subject matter is. The subject matter tonight is somebody's posting on my video. I believe it's on the Signal video, I think, from 2 weeks ago, where somebody says, just listen to this, you understand, and we'll try to break it down. This gentleman said that Protonmail was subject of a server audit. So that Protonmail was went through a server audit and they passed with flying colors. Therefore, Protonmail has to be safe. Okay, and so that's the premise. It's quite an incorrect premise, by the way, because he probably doesn't know what that means when you say do a server audit. So that's what we're going to talk about is just what makes an app safe and what does not make it safe. And when somebody says it's passed through a server audit and it's open source and all this, what does that really mean to you? And does that mean you jump on whatever everyone says on Reddit and they say on Reddit, go download this, go use this, go to this platform, go to that platform, and everyone rushes to that because they think that they're experts and like some of the flaws in logic is kind of embarrassing because it comes from people who claim to be experts in cybersecurity, and yet the premise is completely wrong, and they completely just misunderstand how data is used and collected. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is the fact that whatever I said about Protonmail applies to a lot of different products, not just Protonmail, but you're going to understand now why it does not mean that a product is safe just because somebody says so. Doesn't mean that. So you have to use your own head, because no one is going to tell you, guys. No one is going to tell you if a platform is good or not. You have to use your head. And we're going to talk about, again, repeatedly, because apparently it's people don't understand me. Repeatedly, we're going to talk about metadata, and how all of these so-called experts have no idea about how metadata is collected and used. They have no zucking idea. So again, I'm going to repeat my background here so you understand. Hello, James Miller, Great Gold, James Mason, Mr. Single Killer, Zach. Oh my God, Zach is here. Ross Martin. So we're going to talk a little bit about why I feel like, I do have some extra knowledge about a product like Protonmail. And I've mentioned this in my video. I'm going to repeat it again. Back in 2012, I actually wrote something like Protonmail. I actually did. And then when I released the product and actually did a test run and said, okay, guys, why don't you use this for free and let's see how it works. So people used my email client and server for a while, and then I watched it, and no one was complaining except for me. Hello, James Miller. Thank you so much. Thank you, James Miller. Appreciate it. Appreciate your support. That's what keeps this channel sustained. Thank you also to those who contribute on Patreon and those who buy my products. Thank you, James Miller. Anyway, one of the things that I realized when I was making the product just like Protonmail, and again, let's put this in perspective so you understand what a product like Protonmail does. What a Protonmail is your email account, and your email account will receive emails from whoever you give the email address to. And that could be people who are on Protonmail, and most of the time is people who are not on Protonmail, especially if you use your email on a regular basis and publicize it and send a lot of your messages using Protonmail. Some of you have a paid Protonmail account, so you think it's safe, so you do that. So the idea of Protonmail is it's supposed to protect you because that's what they are supposed to be for. It's supposed to be for encryption. So you have a Protonmail account that's supposedly encrypted, yet you all know, this is not something you have to guess. You all know that any email you get that is from someone not from Protonmail, that is in the database wide open. So if you got an email from someone who's on Gmail and you are sitting at the Protonmail server, you're going to see and read the Gmail account, Gmail email. Not only can you read it, you see it was to, from, all the metadata, the IP address, and everything else that came from Gmail. That's going to be obvious to you. Okay, so let's face facts here. Okay, now because you used somebody else's server, that company, even though you claim that they are supposedly into encryption, they can read the email that is not encrypted. Well, that's probably 99% of your email is the unencrypted email from everyone else. Okay, now let's just assume here that Protonmail is a honeypot. What if Protonmail is a honeypot? What does that really mean? It means that the database contains normal email from people who are sending you email in a non-encrypted way, plus emails that are from the domain of Protonmail. Protonmail says that's encrypted. Let's not argue with that. Let's accept the fact that they say that emails within Protonmail are encrypted. We'll take that, take the word for it. I'm not going to argue that right now. I can, but we're not going to argue that. We're going to say, okay, that's encrypted. Now, what is not encrypted for all email, including the ones that go to Protonmail, including the ones that come from the outside, you never can encrypt the rest of the message. You cannot encrypt the header area, because that's the way the email's routed. It's routed from that header. The header includes a from and a to and all the parties that are supposed to receive the message. So you have your from, your to, IP address, subject. If you don't encrypt that, the subject is also there. All of that is called metadata. It even goes to pathway. It tells you what device you used. Sometimes the email will also say the machine name, the name of your device, and that will often reveal your name, because many people name your computer using the name of using your real name. So you say, this is John Smith's computer, and you actually label that. This is John Smith's Mac. And you put that as your computer name. And obviously then that already indicates also in metadata that the computer name matches the name of the email account. So believe it or not, so what happened was when I ran my own email server, just like Protonmail, with encryption for those doing intra-domain traffic, I was reading too much of the inter-domain traffic. I was seeing too much of it. And I was looking at that and I said, my gosh, can you imagine the metadata here? What are the things I can collect? Since I can read the traffic that is not encrypted, I can see what the topic of conversations are. I can see the from, to, and I can create the contact list with a relationship map. Remember, apps like this collect contact lists, and from the contact list alone, I can draw a relationship and say who's in this circle. So I can actually, if I were running a Protonmail, I can say, oh, these people are talking to each other because they are having crossover contact lists. Now, it would be less of an issue on Gmail, believe it or not, because everyone's on Gmail, so it's not as obvious as something like Protonmail, where everyone on Protonmail has something to hide. That's why you're in Protonmail. So now you've been targeted. We are all people that are trying to hide something, and now you're in a Protonmail account, and now we can now establish the relationships of who talks to whom. And now you can establish that you're talking about tech, you're talking based on subject and so on, and just circles that you're talking about business, and then you're talking about maybe having an affair. All of that's going to be obvious on Protonmail. So this guy says, okay, so that's the background here. That's a backgrounder. The metadata is very, very revealing, and that's true of email especially. By the way, this is not to focus specifically on Protonmail. What I say here applies to Tutanota and everything else. They're Lava Bit. It doesn't matter what it is. They're the same. If you can collect metadata, if you can collect contact lists, then they're all zucked. They are all zucked. Plus the fact that the inter-domain traffic, MTA to MTA, a good chunk of it occurs without encryption on port 25. Yeah, some of it is start TLS, some of it. It's not the majority, I'm telling you right now. Some of it. Mail from big companies like Gmail will be start TLS, but not the rest of them. So you're going to have servers that are not encrypted at all in MTA to MTA traffic. And maybe that's on purpose because they know three-letter agencies want to read that. So why prevent the three-letter agents from reading it? They might say, well, we have a contract with a three-letter agency not to encrypt that. So anyway, what the real issue is on blind faith, somebody says on this is a post on my video, somebody says, well, Protonmail's got to be safe because it had a server review. And the server review then guarantees us that it's going to be safe to go on Protonmail. Okay, let's talk about that again. What the zuck is a server audit? Why do you think a server audit is going to reveal anything to you? Server audit means that whatever you post in open source is exactly what's on the server. There's no hidden code, no special traps in there, no collection of data outside from what is done by the open source. So they can look at that and see, oh yeah, there are no flaws. They're not putting any special code in here. So that passes, and that's fine. But that's not the source of the zucking metadata. That is not the zucking source of the metadata. The metadata is in the zucking database. They don't need to do a server audit. All I have to do is do a zucking backup. Send the backup to the honeypot company. Let's say it's a three-letter agency and say, here's my database. There's tons of metadata in there. We don't even have to decrypt. Just take a copy of my database. How the zuck is that supposed to show up in a server audit? How does zuck do you say, oh, we never gave a copy of the backup? Who's giving a copy of the backup? Who's doing the backup? How's the backups happening? And can you change backup procedures so you do? Oh, we have a server audit. I guess we're not going to go give a copy this week. Maybe we'll give a copy next week. I mean, it's just some of the stupidity in some of these comments is like, oh, we're going to be safe now because there's a server audit. It's like, what the zuck? And the guy said, well, the auditors didn't say anything about metadata, therefore it must be okay. What do you think is in the metadata? There's nothing secret about the fact that they're going to collect that metadata because that's the function of the zucking application. It's an email application. Therefore, what do you expect from an email application? From, to, subject, back and forth, traffic, encrypted for inter domain, not encrypted from inter domain. An auditor will say, "Yup, you're doing exactly as promised. No secrets there." That is not the zucking issue. The issue, guys, is someone can take a backup of the database, and that database will reveal all the information to a third party that wants to track all of these people on this platform with something to hide. And they could do it the same. They can do the same to Tutanota. They can do the same to LavaBit. They can do the same to all of them. Now, if you want to say, well, what platform has less issue with this? Well, obviously your own server. If you have your own email server, then your traffic is your own. The only time that somebody will see your traffic is when it traverses the inter-domain traffic using MTA to MTA communications, meaning inter-domain traffic, meaning from Gmail to your domain, like from Braxme to Gmail, from Protonmail to Gmail, Protonmail to Braxme. That traffic is visible because of MTA to MTA traffic on port 25 for the bulk of it. Some of it goes Start TLS. The bulk of it is open. Aside from that, and fortunately Start TLS is increasing in use. So I don't know what the percentage of use is, but at some point, maybe we'll get to 100% use of Start TLS, in which case, then we won't have so much of an issue with the inter-domain traffic. However, because it goes to my server, anyone that sends me an email goes to my server, then it is only visible to me. I'm not sharing it with somebody who collects that data. So don't fucking tell me that, oh yeah, Protonmail safe. How is Protonmail safer than my own server? How? Can you tell me that? How is Protonmail safer than my own server? I don't even need to encrypt. I'm going to tell you right now, my server is not encrypted. However, it's obviously restricted because there's a password to get into the server. So, it's not going to be easy to break into the server. But aside from that, I don't encrypt it. So how is that safer than Protonmail? Because there's no party that I know that's going to read the data and collect it to do relationship maps and all of that. It doesn't exist because it's my server. I'm not doing it, therefore it's not happening. So don't come and tell me that, I need to go to Protonmail as whatever. In my mind, what's really the difference between Protonmail and, let's say, Gmail? What really is the difference? You're saying Protonmail is a lot safer. Yeah, go pay for your Protonmail account. Are you saying that it's safer because Google's not reading it? There's some truth to that, I suppose. But it's even better if it's my own email. By the way, if you're on Protonmail and you're talking to somebody on Gmail, obviously Gmail can read it too. Where's the safety in there? The guy that sent you the message from Gmail read it going to you, and if you respond back, Gmail reads it on the way back. Not much difference there. In general, I'm telling you all the time, and nothing has changed here, that in general, email is not safe. In general, email is not safe. Email is still, to this day, the main source of passing malware. It's a way, somebody was saying to me, another comment on my video, saying it was on a virtual machine video, and it was saying, well, virtual machines are not safe because then someone could insert malware on the virtual machine. Well, somebody can insert malware on your host. It doesn't have to be a virtual machine. Somebody can insert malware all the time. The purpose of a virtual machine is you can make the assumption that somebody can do that. Therefore, you delete the virtual machine and start again. And therefore, even if there was a virus or malware of any sort, it gets deleted because you keep deleting it. And somebody said, well, somebody can invade the host. Well, what did I say? I said, don't use the zucking host. Don't use the host. Use only the VM, in which case, how are you going to get malware on the host if you are not using the host? Okay, if all of your interactions on the internet, on browsers and so on, are done on the virtual machine, you're not going to infect the host. So a lot of these, people, it's amazing what happens is a few of these people read a few comments on Reddit and such, and they apparently are all geniuses already on privacy, and then they come in and say, well, you're wrong, Braxman, you're wrong. I read it on Reddit, they said this, and you're wrong. And it's like, zucked up, guys. Okay, and people push you to platforms like Matrix. Now, I think there's a way to use Matrix a little bit safer, but generally, if you're just going to use Matrix in general without any thought, then there's a lot of metadata. You have to register to a central server, and there's a metadata there that reveals all the, contactless relationship maps that can be derived even if the traffic is encrypted. Again, people pushing things without really understanding the use of metadata. I don't really care if you encrypt everything that you encrypt. If you're not paying attention to your metadata, then you're just wasting your time. Okay? Because everyone in the intelligence business understands that it's the metadata that reveals everything. In fact, if I were a three-letter agency and I said, I want to make a honeypot, what would be the best way to do that? Well, obviously the best way to do that is to start up a service like Protonmail. Would be good, right? So think about it. Even Google was started with three-letter agency funds. Google started out from the three-letter agencies. So they said, wow, the search engine, all this is a great way to have a honeypot. And in case you don't know what a honeypot is, it's basically a way to attract the bad guys so you can track them. So by attracting your target into a sticky beehive, attracting your target where it's sticky, and then they get caught in there, then you can watch them. So if I were a three-letter agency and I thought ahead, I would say, oh my gosh, let's use, just thinking about honeypots, are really good honeypots for me, would be Pokemon Go. Wow, what a great honeypot. Pokemon Go. Can you imagine that? You're actually, good thing that's nobody talks about Pokemon Go anymore. They talk about TikTok, right? But back in the day when everyone was talking about Pokemon Go was started by the CIA guy, John Henke. CIA. Okay? Now, what's the interesting thing about Pokemon Go? John Henke was the one who came up with, Google Earth and all the 3D topology of Google Earth. That can be used for missiles, so they can go ride the mountains and go hit the target exactly. Topology. So Pokemon Go, if you use that, you can actually do interior mapping of your house. So somebody can then have a database of what your interior looks like. So if somebody needs to attack you and go storm you all of a sudden, they can look at the database and see, what's the setup in this house before we walk in, so we know all the hiding places and all that. That's a honeypot. And can you imagine having a street view inside your house using Pokemon Go? That's a honeypot. Protonmail. I'm not saying that Protonmail is a honeypot, but boy, if I were a three-letter agency, I would say, wow, this is a great honeypot. Look, we can get all the metadata about all the conversations, and then we can go isolate who it is just from the metadata. And then from that, we don't even need to see the encrypted traffic. We probably could decrypt it because we have quantum computers, but that aside, all we need to know is who's talking to whom, what time, how often, what's the length of the message. Things like that are easily acquired from the metadata. What's the IP address being used? Are they using a VPN? Not using a VPN? All of these little questions, and you can answer that from the metadata. Who's talking to whom? Let me see the contact list. And, why do you think that you need to do that? So, guys, I'm just trying to tell you that be careful when somebody tells you, make statements about, oh, let's go use this new platform because it's, somebody says it's really, really safe. And the first question I have when somebody says it's safe, that this is an encrypted platform because it does X and Y with encryption, the first thing I ask myself is, let's study the metadata flow. Metadata flow, guys. So if you look at any platform, look at the metadata. Do not look at the encryption first. Look at the metadata first. Let me again repeat this to close this out. And then we'll go into Q&A. But let me just make this clear to you. Again, the issue in privacy is not necessarily secrecy. Secrecy is not necessarily the end all. People argue with me, say, oh, your app is not encrypted, it's not end-to-end encrypted, whatever. So we don't want to use your stuff. So we're going to use Signal and Telegram and all this, where you give your phone number. Again, these people missed the point. BraxMe app, one of the big things about BraxMe is that I actually understand that the big issue is identity. When you don't have an identity, it does not matter there's no need for secrecy because there's no need, because no one can interpret what's being said anyway. Okay, so you say, let's say you go into, BraxMe and you say, I'm going to rob the bank. Okay, I'm going to rob the bank. Well, we don't know who said that. We don't know anything. So if we don't know who said it, saying we're going to rob the bank doesn't mean anything until somebody actually robs the bank, and then you can say, oh, this person said that, so this identity must be the bank robber. Beyond that, we don't actually know anything. Because without the collaborating identity, it doesn't mean anything. It's not even have to be said in secret. So the bank robber can say, we're going to rob a bank. If the bank actually isn't robbed because the guy got sick with COVID, then we're never going to know if it's true or not. It could have been a fake message. We're not going to know because there's no identity. Now, how about this? Let's reverse. A bunch of bank robbers now talk to each other on Signal with their phone numbers on there. We don't know what they're talking about. Somebody looks at the phone numbers and say, well, these phone numbers, because you can check this in a database, belong to the people who have a record. So they look at the phone numbers and say, oh, this person is talking to this person. Now we have some real identities to deal with. And therefore we can say, we're going to watch these guys. Why are they talking so frequently? What's going to happen? What do they say? What do they call that in the intelligence community? They call that chatter. There's chatter. So when a collection of people start to have some intense communication, you always start thinking, what's going on? Are they debating the latest basketball game or not? Something else. Maybe they're going to rob the bank. So that's the difference, guys. Identity is actually more important than secrecy. You can encrypt all you want. If the metadata says you're having a conversation with specific people, then everyone knows. For example, if you're having a conversation with Snowden, then somebody will know that and will make a record of you. Because Snowden's identity is known, and it doesn't matter if you encrypt it. If Snowden goes on the internet and has a conversation, you're gonna be found. Now, the only way to fight that, if you have a known identity, is you have to fight with disinformation. And even the disinformation king, John McAfee, even he got arrested. So John McAfee got arrested. So, he was like pushing it. He wasn't really hiding, and then he gets caught. So there you go, guys. I mean, you just It doesn't even matter. By the way, John McAfee doesn't hide. He doesn't encrypt anything because he feels like he hides by disinformation by saying, "Oh, I'm in Belarus when I'm actually in Spain." And then finally, he got caught with that because he was talking about Spain too often, and then he was talking about Spain for the week before he was caught. So he made a mistake. So it is not fake news, Nemo. McAfee is in fact being held in a facility in Spain. That this is true. So McAfee should have used Protonmail. It was McAfee that says that's CIA. He was actually the one that said that, and I don't have any proof that it is, but he does not use Protonmail. But I mean, he's showing his identity. I mean, his locations on Twitter. So, that's why you get into a problem with that. What did John McAfee do? He didn't pay taxes. He decided he didn't want to pay taxes. I think he got cocky, yes. So, yeah. So, which is sad. He does. Ring my bell as far as ideas. His ideas are compatible with mine, but I pay my taxes. I'm not going to go that far. So, do tax fraud. SEC I'm gonna uninstall a lot of monetary flow out of that John McAfee contact. He killed people. Now that's BS. So there's no charge against him for killing anyone. So the only charge is tax evasion. Okay, so anyway, so back to our There's a movie you can watch, the John McAfee movie about whatever you want to claim there, but no one's charged him with anything but tax. He's been indicted for tax evasion. That's it. What email server do you run for Brax? I do not use any email server anymore for Brax. I run my own email server for myself. For myself. That's it. Not subject to flaws in my server. What flaws in my server? It's my own server. So what are the flaws in my server? Go hack it then. You tell me what the flaws are. Okay, so let's answer your question. Let's answer your questions here. You run a server for email. Yes, I run my own server for myself, not for you. Yes, I use Postfix. What do you think of the Google Huawei? Why do you ask me this, King Singh? Didn't I talk about this over and over? Huawei phones cannot be bootloader unlocked. They cannot be bootloader unlocked. So they may claim they may be the Google, but I have no zucking idea what's in there because it's whatever they give you. It is not bootloader unlockable. Therefore, it is what it is. You can't alter a Huawei. That is not my phone of choice. I'm not going to go use a phone that I can't change what's on there. If there's malware in there or spyware, I am not going to zucking no because it's locked up. So no Huawei for me. No Huawei for me. What do you think about de-Googled iPhone? There's no such thing as a de-Googled iPhone because for one, there's no Google in an iPhone. Secondly, Apple isn't going to let you do anything. Do you have a zucking Discord server? Zuck, no. Zuck, no. What the zuck is your interest in zucking Discord? I have no idea. Are you still able to find the Moto G? What does that mean? Are you still able to find the Moto G? I don't know what that means. Locked up by what? Huawei Postfix. Okay, so you run a mail server on Postfix. You're responsible for the security of your mail server, updates, patches. If not careful, you could be exposing more than you are aware of. Well, DNS script, I've been running email servers for decades. It's very, very hard to run an email server. You ought to know that. Very hard. Okay, but I put enough precautions in there to lock it up, and it's running fine. What email platform is best for hosting my own server? It doesn't matter what it is as long as you control it. You can put it on, Linode. Here. If you want, you can set up an email server on Linode. Linode is my sponsor, and that's fine. You can use Linode as your server. You can probably run an email server on their Nano, which is like $5 a month. Linode has a special. They're my sponsor, and they have a special. If you have a Linode server, you can get up to $100 credit, or 60 days, and 60 days, or 60 days free. So $100 for 60 days from Linode if you use the Rob Braxman code. If you use that link, linode.com, Rob Braxman. So if you also want to have a Nextcloud server, that's also the place to do it. So yes, you can, that's one of the ways you can do it. Set up your own Linode server. It does take a bit of knowledge to set up an email server. You can't just say, I'm going to use postfix and all that. It's not that simple. And for one, you have to firewall your server very, very well. Otherwise, if you don't firewall your server, somebody's going to get in there and go invade your server. And if somebody invades your server with spam, then your ISP will lock you out and say, can't have the server anymore because it's doing spam. So that's it does take a bit of skill to set it up so it doesn't do that. So I've done that, and I've had my share when over the years when, some new flaw comes in and somebody attacks the server with spam. So I haven't been attacked in years. So so it's stable now. Stable. So anyway, you don't have to firewall it if you use an onion service with client authorization. Whatever that means. Okay, everyone, in the description below, there's a link to Rob's Patreon where you can make a monthly pledge. Thank you so much, Great Gold. Yes. Linode's actually, if I were to compare Linode to AWS, and I have several Linode, I have many Linode servers now, and I have AWS too. In fact, I have many servers from all different places, and Linode is actually a good price. It's actually cheaper. So that I've been, if the service I need is not available on AWS. I'd rather use Linode. So some services I gotta use AWS for, like S3 and RDS. But if I'm not using those, then I actually don't need it. I'm gonna just use Linode. Linode, pricing is actually good. The bandwidth prices of Amazon AWS is horrendous. They like overcharge you. AWS will really, really overcharge you. So yeah, I look at my bills from AWS and they're huge. So, like, I'm running BraxMe, and a lot of it runs on AWS, and it's very expensive. Very expensive. I might get the Huawei, the Google phone for the camera for work, sir. You might be better off just using your iPhone for that. Why don't you just get a real camera, King Sing? Why don't you just get an actual camera? Why do you need to use a phone camera? Where's my... Where I put my cameras? I'm using very nice cameras here, which are obviously heads and shoulders better than anything on a phone. I'm using a Sony DSLR over here that's doing this right now with some fancy lens, and I have a Canon G7 X Mark III, and that's even that's a good it's a year old, and it's still a pretty good camera, and that's still a lot better than any phone camera. I don't care if you're saying that, oh, my iPhone has, the best. BS. It's not as good as these. So I don't understand. You're going to buy a phone for the camera? Why don't you just buy the camera and get a cheaper phone? Mark II you got. Mark II. Is that what I have? Mark II? That autofocus, though, when the Brax pointed to said camera. You mean this autofocus? Sometimes it's gets wonky. Yes, it's because it's dark like this. DSLR is kind of big and bulky. Yeah, of course, because it's fancy. But the Canon one is tiny. It fits in my pocket. It's for social media marketing, photos and videos. Yes, you use the Canon G7 Mark II or whatever I have. Is better than your iPhone, and it can put it in your pocket. Okay? Come on. Not, it's like, I'm going to get a camera. I'm going to get a phone. Why don't you just get the camera? Then get a phone. Don't combine them. Why is it that you're thinking, oh, it's time to get a phone. It's got time to get a camera. Oh, I'm going to look at the phones. It's like, suck. I don't get that. Do you know that that's a trick? So you see, Apple and Samsung know that you're not going to buy a phone anymore for the sake of the phone, because there's nothing different from a phone from year to year. What is different between an iPhone 10 and the current, what's the next iPhone going to come out? iPhone 12. What's the actual difference? There really isn't. What they're saying is, oh, the camera is so much better. That's all they're saying now. Camera is so much better. Well, that's not justification for buying a phone. Look at all these people telling me about iPhone 12. For goodness sake, that means you're actually planning on buying one. Oh my gosh. I'm never going to buy an iPhone again. No. Maybe used one for testing. I have a Canon G7X, I believe. Mark II, Mark III, I forget. G7X, Mark II. Which email servers do you recommend? Avoid email. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you use. Don't think you're getting some special treatment from Protonmail. Doesn't matter what you use. They're all unsafe anyway. It's better to have your own server. If you can't afford that, then don't bother with it. Don't worry about it. Just start using email less. Have many email accounts for different purposes. Okay? Alpha 6000. Well, my Sony here is pretty high end. So I don't even know what the model is now. It's the one for YouTubers. It's a very high-end DSLR with fancy lens and all that. So 4K video. So yeah, that's what I'm using here. It's a Sony. I forget the model. You know why I forget the model? Because it's always in its stand, wrapped up. It's actually covered. So I don't actually see it. I have to look and see what the model is. I can't actually see. So I forget what the model is. It's expensive. It's expensive. It's more expensive than your phone. I'm gonna guess like $1,500 at least, and maybe more for all the extra lenses. So yeah, what Android ROM is best? Any Android ROM that? Come on, Action Potato, you know that. The answer is no gaps. What? Otherwise, who cares? The reason I say who cares is because the standard Android 10 is actually pretty good. No one can actually say that Android 10, the AOSP, is not good. It's actually good. It's secure, and it's actually pretty good. So even when some ROM makes some minor modifications, like Lineage OS just changes the UI a little bit, not much. Graphene OS adds some little features, but for the most part, what they do is they modify the SE Linux policy. So they're just more restrictive with it. Otherwise, it's the same general thing. What Graphene OS do is good. It's good. Yes. Do you need Graphene OS? Uh, I'm not going to go pay extra for an expensive Pixel just to have Graphene OS. If I happen to have that phone, yeah, I'd use it. I'd use Calyx OS. I haven't tried Calyx OS, but I'm sure it's fine as long as there's no gaps in it. There's fine. I use mostly Lineage OS because it's the most compatible. I have more devices that I'm able to distribute with Lineage OS. I can use any. It doesn't matter what if it's available for the phone. Calyx OS is kind of like, you know, I believe it's also like pixel based, right? See, I avoid it because pixels are very hard I try to offer pixels in my store, Pixel 3s. The problem is I buy like, let's say I buy a dozen pixels and they're very expensive phones. So I have to buy them retail. They're very expensive. So I tie up my money buying up, what's a dozen phones? Let's say you pay $300 a piece for a phone. $300 I pay for the phone. And I got it, that includes California tax. And then half the phones or more have to be returned. The last batch I bought so many Pixel 3s, I had to return every single one because I could not OEM unlock it. So that kind of make me frustrated. It's like I'm afraid to tie up my money because I'm going to tie up my money for a while before I sell it on a phone that I cannot OEM unlock. And how do I buy a new one when my money's tied up for I don't have that kind of cash where I can just say, oh, okay, I'll spend $10,000, supplying myself with Pixel 3s, and then I have to return most of them, and then I got to go buy another one. It's really difficult. That's why I do not stock Pixel 3s. So, so 4A you can unlock. All of them say you can unlock it, and you get it. You can't unlock them. So 50% you cannot unlock. So it's very, very frustrating. And then I sold several Ubuntu Touches, and they said, well, can't get the signal from the carrier. I don't know why, because, Ubuntu Touch, several have now not been able to connect to the carrier. So that's kind of bugged me too, because I was selling a lot of Ubuntu Touches before, and now I can't even do that. So, well, if yours is unlocked, it doesn't mean it's unlocked from the carrier. The only Pixel phones you can unlock are those that you get from Google. So if you buy a phone from Google itself and you keep it for a couple of years, then yeah, somebody will come up with a that can be unlocked, and you'll be able to load some custom ROM in there someday. So don't go buy. I'm going to go buy a Pixel 4. I don't know if Lineage OS supports a Pixel 4 yet. I have no idea. Aren't the headers to the other Protonmail users encrypted? Headers are never encrypted because you need to and from. But it doesn't even matter if it is or not. Okay? Because in order for it to be directed, Protonmail has to know who the person is based on their email. So no, the answer is it's impossible. How do you direct it without knowing you can't encrypt the account. I mean, you got to know who the account is that gets the message. Common sense. I de-googled my Samsung A7 one. I had to put Lineage OS on it. You successfully did that. That's really good because, as you know, it's very difficult with Samsungs because there's subversions of which Disk Potato or Action Potato already told me about. When you when you buy some Samsungs and you find out you have the wrong subversion, then you'll find out that you can't unlock it. So that's one of the reasons I don't do Samsungs, is because you got to find the specific model, and it's very hard to find. They're not the most common models, the ones that are unlockable. The common models on eBay are the ones that are locked. So it's really, really hard, really hard to ensure that you get one that you can even unlock. Never look a gift Android in the mouth. What is your opinion on all these new 5G phones? Don't use 5G. I accidentally drew a picture of my in my sleep. Would you like it? IoT scares me more. Unofficial lineage is unofficial. What does it mean when it's unofficial lineage? What does it mean when it's GSI? Some of these terms. Thank you, Carlos Sanchez. What do you think about Harmony OS? Same with all of them. They're all the same to me. I don't know if Harmony OS comes without gaps. So you got to find one that has no gaps. Like some of them, like Resurrection and so on, I have not seen them without gaps. Many of them are compiled with gaps. So they're not really usable. They got to be ones without gaps. So I don't know if any OS provides their OS without gaps, then as far as I'm concerned, it's good. So they all come from the same GSI, the generic system image from Android. And even that's fine. When somebody says unofficial, what it means is that it's not officially supported, which means there could be bugs. When somebody puts a stamp official on it on Lineage, it means everything is working, which is not always true. For example, Lineage OS now supports the Moto G7 Play, which I've been loading a GSI on, and it hasn't been running yet. I'm going to keep trying it again, and maybe I can get it running. Maybe as they have more builds, it's a little bit more stable. Because the Moto G7 Play is inexpensive. It's actually, I like it. It's a very nice standard phone. It's small, and the battery lasts a long time. And when I was using it with just a plain GSI, but there are bugs, and those bugs will disappear with Lineage OS. But I can't install it yet. It's not running. I'm going to try it this weekend. What's the difference between internet privacy and internet safety? Come on, Mad Cow. Do I need to explain that to you? I got Graphene OS from my dad's Pixel. He thinks it's kick-ass. Well, if you like it, it's good. Don't have any problem with you loading Graphene OS on your Pixel. Now, to be honest with you, I kind of have a negative taste in my mouth right now on Graphene. Not because of Graphene itself, but all the people pushing it. It's just, they're like a bunch of fanatics trying to push it. And then there's the other side, which is Copperhead OS, which is in a fight. Because Graphene came from Copperhead. And so they used to be the partners. So there are lawsuits and all that going on. I just want to stay away from that. So I'm not going to get involved with Graphene discussions. You use it if you want. Don't care. As far as I'm concerned, I load anything that I'm able to buy. So if I can buy a device that I can load it in an inexpensive way, I'll do it. I've never been successful loading Graphene on a Pixel 3. So, which is why I don't use Graphene, because I only had a Pixel 3 and I loaded it and it didn't work. So I didn't try again. People have said, oh, it works on a Pixel 3a, but I don't want a Pixel 3a. Pixel 3a is lesser of a phone for the same expense than a Pixel 3, because a Pixel 3a is not waterproof. A Pixel 3 is waterproof. So Pixel 3 is better and it looks better with nicer metal. So, but again, the issue is it's expensive and you can't unlock it all the time. I use two of them, Graphene and Copperhead. It feels the same. Well, because it's made by the same people originally. Tails on mobile phones should be the next thing. Linux on mobile phones is generally a problem. Are you working on the boat channel? Yes, King Sing, but too many emergencies right now on the main channel. What about BlackBerry Enterprise Server on Samsung phone? What the heck are you talking about? BlackBerry is now a Chinese company, at least the brand. Okay, so the brand BlackBerry on a phone is now an Android. They're just standard Android, and they're sold by a Chinese company. So they're just Google Android. What's it? I like Rob Braxton. 9 Volt. I hope you watch me instead of Rob Braxton. I don't know who Rob Braxton is, but that's probably not a good channel. I think you should like Rob Braxton. Linux is a problem on the phone because a phone a phone has many issues that have been solved on Android and iOS that a new player like Linux is having a hard time doing because they don't have the resources. A phone does things like power saving, which is one of the biggest issues currently on the Linux phone, is that the phone doesn't last longer than 6 hours. Whereas my Android running this, so here I have a the Google phone here, and this is running 2 days. This is a Pixel 3. This is not Graphene. This is Lineage OS running no gaps. Great. 2 days. Runs great. Love it. It's I don't really have any complaints on the Pixel 3 running Lineage OS. Everything that I want to run runs. The main issue may be Waze. Waze doesn't run anymore. And but I use like my boating app Navionics, works great. So even boating, I mean, I use this as my navigation on a boat. Yeah, don't have any problem. Pay some respect. Linux on phones have actually been around since before iPhone. Nokia had a Linux smartphone in 2006. So understand that phones have come a long way since 2006, and the screens are sharper and brighter and faster, and they take a lot more resources, and they're more secure, and they're locked down, and you actually can not compete too well with the security on an iPhone. The actual physical security of an iPhone is very good. So if you want to keep a 3-letter agency from taking your nude pics on an iPhone, yes, you might as well carry an iPhone. However, that doesn't stop Apple from tracking your location 24/7. So if you want something secure where your data is on a phone, yes, iPhone is the best. But it doesn't mean privacy. There's two totally different concepts. They're going to contact trace you and track your moves 24/7. It's going to say, you're 5 minutes from your zucking destination. You are 200 yards from your car. It's like, suck you, iPhone. Did I tell you to zucking track me? So the point is, I'm not going to have an iPhone anymore. My iPhone is sitting, unused with no. Well, I use it. Do you know what I use my iPhone for? Aside from just simple apps that I use at home, it's my Google Voice account. So my Google Voice is controlled from the iPhone. The iPhone does not have a SIM card, so it's Wi-Fi only, and I use it to manage Google Voice. Other than that, that's it. The iPhone doesn't get used much. Google Voice, yes, and the actual Google Voice calls are forwarded to my de-Googled a Lineage OS phone. This is really what gets the forwarded messages. And somebody says, "Oh, Google knows your phone number. You're forwarding your phone number." Well, guys, I change my phone number every month. I'm on Ting.com. I pay some small amount for the phone number, which I only use for such minor stuff, and I change the phone number. So you sticking it to the man. I still have several of the BlackBerry devices from the past. That's too bad, RBR. They're 3G, so they're not useful anymore. Should I use Keybase for phone or PC? Why use a Lineage when everyone says... Did I just talk about that? Not going to go talk about graphene, okay? It's going to come to the point where I'm going to just tell you not to mention graphene, or I just won't respond to you when I don't need any, crowds here trolling me about graphene. I already said what I said. I said, as far as I'm concerned, if you have a de-Googled Android, they're all fine to me as long as they have no gaps. Thank you, Adam, on Adam Tron Bear. McAfee told me that mobile messaging encryption is pointless because the data is taken before encryption and after encryption. Your thoughts, please. With I booted on my Pixel. I'll allow you to talk about graphene. Thank you. Thank you. Let me get. Oops, your name scrolled down there before I check your name on there. Okay, Adam Tron Bear. Okay, so Adam Tron Bear is asking me about the fact that somebody can track your phone before encryption. Well, obviously, you have to worry about other things on a device, because what is the point of encryption if you have a rat remote access Trojan, which is what they're talking about. So McAfee will generalize on stuff like that, because yes, if somebody wants to track you, then they're going to go invade your phone with a remote access Trojan. They can just watch your screen and keystrokes. They don't need to see the encryption. That's true. However, hopefully you're following my channel and you realize that it is very easy to beat that with the various tools that I've been talking about here. One is the factory reset, and I've told you this on the several videos on have you been hacked and how to set up your computer. A remote access Trojan cannot survive a reset. So if you ever fear that you have a remote access Trojan, do reset if you fear that. Okay? Now let me just tell you something else specifically. Almost all malware, unless they physically steal your device from you, take it home and then bring it back to you. Almost all malware is fed malware through email or even messaging, something to click on. If you click on something, you get the malware. So, what is the secret? Don't fucking click. I mean, I don't even get email on my phone. I don't click on any links on the phone. So how the fuck do I get malware? Which is why I don't get any malware, because you're not going to convince me to click on something. Chunk, how old am I? I'm probably, I don't know, Chunk Hose, just from your name, I'm going to say I'm older than you. Anything you click on, porn, not porn, it doesn't matter. A phishing attack. Actually, one of the best ways to get a phishing attack is to send you a innocuous mail saying, we're looking for somebody with your skill set. Because who do you want to talk to? It's always about money. So when somebody says, we may have a job for you. We heard about you. So if somebody looks at your LinkedIn account or your Facebook, say, we heard, and then you listed your job in there, and they say, we heard about you, and we're interested in your work, and maybe we may have an opening for you. You want to be considered for this? Here, fill out this application, and then you click on it, and it looks like an application, except you've actually clicked on the malware. The expert of that is Kevin Mitnick. So you read some of his books and you'll see, the kind of tricks that he used. And I'm very aware, because I know how to hack. So, I can load malware on your device without you clicking anything. So I already know how to do that. And then through some sort of social engineering, you can have them click on it a month later. It doesn't have to happen now. So you collect enough malware on a device, and then at some point you can convince the guy to click on it through some other trick. This dude's full of whatever. 9 out of 10 cat pics. Proton rant over 15-year-olds are smarter than Mitnick now, unfortunately. Where'd you get that? Chunkos, what is your opinion of Marxism, Leninism? My opinion, Chunkos, zuck that. I am not a zucking communist. I was interviewed today by a site called Pirates Without Borders. Ernest Hancock. So there's an interview that occurred today, and he was telling me that his main focus on his group is leave me alone. It's really simple. His mantra is leave me alone. And I said, wow, that works for me. That's exactly what I would do. Leave me alone. That's all. There's no politics attached to it. Just leave me the zuck alone. Don't spy on me. Don't collect my data. Just let me live my life. Leave me alone. If I'm not committing any crime, don't zucking do anything to me. Centralized control will mean no privacy and no free speech. Leave me alone. Harmony OS is for Huawei. Is it similar to BlackBerry? Come on, King Singh. Stop talking about Huawei. I already answered that. There is no opinion. Communism is pure evil. That's a fact. Read history. Yes, I agree. No argument from me. Let's see. I don't think talking about communism is politics. I am not a fucking communist. I can tell you that. The idea of leave me alone is totally against the principles of dictatorship and communism. Two different sides. Right-wing dictatorship, communism, same thing. Same thing. I don't see any difference. Is it possible to get malware if you open the email but don't click on anything? Yes, I can do that. Verum verbi. Yes. I can even spy on you without you opening anything. And the reason is many of the email clients open it anyway in the background. They open it in the background. So one of the things you have to test is, will the background application of Outlook and so on, Mac Mail, Android Mail, and all that, do they open in the background? Well, they all do. The only one that doesn't open in the background that I've tested is Thunderbird. Thunderbird does not open in the background. Thunderbird does not exist on a phone. So I have not tested to see if K9 email, for example, which I pre-install, I don't know if it opens in the background or not. I haven't done that test. How likely is it to get malware on a desktop Linux distribution by clicking on the link? You can get a malware from anything and any operating system. However, a Linux computer is less likely to get the virus because you do not have administrator rights. You have to put sudo. And Windows typically is installed, or even a Mac is installed with one user, and the one user is the admin. So watch my video on how to set up a computer. So you can harden a Windows computer to behave similar to Linux just by setting up a different user from the admin account. So you don't need to necessarily switch to Linux. I mean, obviously Linux is safer, but because Microsoft is the biggest target. How do you find the interviews website you were interviewed today? How did you find the interviewer's website you were interviewed today? They invited me to be interviewed. So to be honest, I looked at the website only before the interview. So apparently Ernest Hancock also interviewed McAfee. Too many people have an incorrect definition of anarchy. What do you think of the ham radio smartphones? I don't think of it. How do you Asher Grease? I look old, Asher Grease. That's what I look like. We must liberate Taiwan. China will always prevail. Yeah, why is that? Why is like we're not allowed to say that Taiwan is China now? Since what? Since Nixon? Since the 70s? We can't call Taiwan China now? Because it's Taiwan and it's not represented? Zuck. Yeah, zuck that. I don't get that. It's a free service Pacific Pit Bull. What do you think of Micro G? Of course, I use Micro G intensely. Micro G is very important. Taiwan is China, but they don't want you to say that. When was the last president? Who was the last president who said Taiwan is China? Before Nixon. Before Nixon. China is the real sovereign nation. Oh, you mean Taiwan is not a sovereign nation? Okay, whatever. When will you sell made the Chinese coal? No, Nixon was the one who started calling China. Nixon negotiated that. Maybe at the beginning of his term, he called Taiwan China, but at the end of his term, Taiwan no longer got any credit for nobody could call Taiwan China anymore. Do you ever listen to The Hook? No, I don't really listen to anyone, to be honest. Nixon's war on drugs has increased crime and reduced jobs. War on drugs was Reagan, Mrs. Reagan. Not sure. War on drugs was Reagan, not Nixon. How to remove rootkit malware from Android phone when the factory reset won't fix. Reinstall, obviously. Start from scratch. Reinstall. Bros before hoes. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Caleb Squires. Thank you so much, guys. By the way, I look at this. That is so nice of you guys to be doing super chats. I mean, is this called super chat? Here on YouTube, I really appreciate it. That's very, very kind of you. I don't really get rich from doing this. So, and as somebody said, I only have 37.8K subscribers. So I'm only going to be at 40,000 subscribers at the end of the month, which is laughable. Laughable. So, yeah, somebody made a comment like, you only have 37K subscribers. Like, yes, it is laughable. So I'm working on it. We'll be at 40 at the end of the month. And yes, I know 40 is laughable. So, okay, I'll be at 100 next year. I'm not going to get to 100 this year, so we're going to shoot for 100 next year. Shadow Band, keep your head up, King. Invite a friend. Nixon called drugs the number one enemy. He could have done that, but it was Reagan who did the war on drugs. What's your go-to resource for security information? Chris Moore, to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I don't really go around following every cybersecurity threat that it is. I don't go around saying, "Oh, what's the latest hack this week?" Well, I don't go read CVS threats and all that. I don't need to. The reason is I don't really need to worry about that. Those are short-term threats. Most of those get solved by the party within a month. So if I spend my channel talking about, let's worry about the crack attack on Wi-Fi, which was what, 2 years ago now? The crack attack. Can you imagine me talking about the crack attack now when that's already been solved? Okay, so if somebody watched my video from 2 years ago talking about the crack attack, which I believe I did from the beginning of last year, it would be out of date. So I don't really worry about that. That's really not my focus. If you want cybersecurity, go get some, many cybersecurity sites, many of them. I read them all, but they're not critical to what I do, because what I talk about is privacy, and privacy is not about the latest threat. Privacy is about what you do, habits, choices. What the CVS is a pharmacy. Yeah, CVS is also the name of the threat number, like CVS and the number. Are modded apps safe? What kind of modded apps are we talking about? We're talking about games. Do you stream on other platforms? I used to. Nowadays, I don't. I used to. I still do some music once in a while. Like once a month, I go do something on Periscope, play piano. So if you want to watch me on Periscope, I'm going to play piano, once a month. So I did one last week. So if you want to watch, social stuff, then I will do it on Periscope. I'm not going to talk tech anymore, though. I used to, but I don't anymore. Help me carry the stone. What's that? How do you track my data packets without a computer? Modded apps, e.g. YouTube Vance. Is that a modded app? That's just some variation of YouTube, right? Is that what I figure modded means? Somebody takes a source code and changes it. They obviously don't have access to that. Tell about Orbot for Android. Orbot for Android. I use it. I install it for you. Orbot is official. Love from India. Sal Naidu. Sal, it's amazing. My main countries that watch me are, I believe it's obviously USA, and then the next one I believe is Canada, and then next one is India, and then UK, and then Australia. Those are like the top sources of my traffic. And India's up there, which is like surprising. Now, obviously, the bulk of it is from the USA and Canada. But surprising how many people from India watch me. I don't understand why people from India watch me. But thank you. Appreciate it. There's so many of you from India. So, yes, so many from India. Nirmal is from India. Where's Mickey Leaks? He's not here right now. King Singh is obviously from around there, although he's not in India. He's from Canada. Yeah, so Rahendra is from India. My sister lived in Mumbai for several years. I think 3 years, I think. She lived in Mumbai. So I've never been to India, but my sister lived there for 3 years. So I ain't with this mask BS. Real talk, I ain't with this. Oh, you mean like COVID masks? Yes, indeed, Rob. Thank you. India, Carlos from Panama. From Panama. I want to see your sloths. The sloths in Panama. I didn't even know what a sloth was except for the animation movie, and then I see they have sloths in Panama. That was interesting. How are you doing from Panama? Hopefully it's not too hot. Hopefully it's not too hot in Panama. Indian Canadian. What the Google phone do you use? I use here a Pixel. This is a Pixel 3 running Lineage 17.1. De-Googled, obviously, no gaps. Moved to Canada. I've actually embarrassed to say, but I have never been to Canada. So, yeah, it's embarrassing. I mean, I had relatives in Canada. They lived in Vancouver. Uh, and I never been to Canada. So, yes, that's got to correct that someday. Not now with COVID, but someday. Good day, Jimmy B. 9 volt. Is there a kit to add wheels to a phone to make a robot? Yes. Yes, 9 volt. That's not as funny as you think. You can actually take a pine phone and turn it into a robot. I've always thought about that. Pine phone running Linux. And there's actually connectors on the back of a Pine phone, so it's open. You can actually it's like a Raspberry Pi with LTE. So you can do it to a Pine phone. The Pine phone is actually good for that kind of experimentation. So yeah, if you want to play with that and turn to robot, put Linux on a Pine phone. There are connectors in the back, so you can use it like a Raspberry Pi, and then you can use that to signal another device. And there you go. Raspberry Pi with LTE built in. Everything, including a screen, and that's a Pine phone. So, any idea when the Motorola 7 can update to Lineage 17? Why are you pushing it when there are no bugs? Second wave of COVID-19 is passing through Canada at the moment. Does disabling Google Apps make sense? You cannot disable Google Apps. Come on. You are allowed to disable what you're allowed to disable. You're not allowed to remove. So how the zuck are you going to remove it? Something's already there. So no, you cannot disable. You cannot substitute with microG unless you actually install and remove the Google apps on there. You're going to be spied on. I'm going to turn off Google services, and you're still going to be spied on. Flying Amazon camera drones a privacy risk? Are flying drone... not necessarily. They might hit you though. I want to make my phone fast. Take out all the apps. It is not illegal to change MAC address. Okay. I'm on Lineage 17 on my Moto G7 River. Is it okay? Is it stable? I don't really want to spend so much time trying to fix something that the Lineage 16 that I load on Motorola G7s is a micro G version, so it's actually superior in terms of app compatibility versus just a plain Lineage OS. And that's why it's actually advantageous to use the Lineage 16. So if I go to 17, some things are not going to work. More apps will work on the micro G version that I load on a Moto G7. You cannot update microG if it won't let you. You can download microG directly from microG. Don't take a Aurora Store update because it doesn't come from the Aurora Store. You cannot update microG from the Aurora Store because that's not where it came from. It came directly from the microG site. You want to update microG if there's any reason to, then you go to, there's no reason to right now. But if there is, you go to microG and download it from there. You do not go to a zucking store. No store. What's your favorite OS to use with the Pine phone? I like the Debian Fosh. First of all, it's Debian is so standard that when I use it, it's like, oh, it's just like standard Debian. I don't have to play games like I have to do with UB ports. So everything for what I need to do, because I don't really need it for the phone stuff. I want to use it for the Linux stuff, and the fact that I can install anything normally using Debian is much better. You have to understand that the screen drivers for UB ports is different than from standard Linux, so it's not as simple as you think. So there's a lot of incompatibility introduced by using UB ports. So if you want to use UB ports, it'll be compatible with UB ports. But if you want to do something else, like standard Linux stuff, then you're not going to want to use UB ports. I'd rather use Debian. Debian's, easy because apt install. Everything works. So can we install Debian on Arch in normal mobile? No. What do you think of Apple moving to ARM architecture next year? They are? Doesn't matter though. I mean, it's still Apple. Well, why don't you say this? Apple, stop spying on me next year. Wow, that would be great. But that's not what you said. That's not what you said. You didn't say anything about that. How can you make sure Google sends you a bootloader unlocked phone when you buy a Pixel? If you bought it from Google, it is unlocked. If you don't buy it from Google, you have to guess where it come from. So if you buy it from eBay, you're going to have to find out, did this come from Google or originally or not? You're actually not going to know. The only way to know is to have somebody try to OEM unlock it. Otherwise, they're not going to know. They're moving to ARM on the MacBook Pros. Is that a good thing? Don't know if that's a good thing. Do you think you'll be able to de-Google 5G phones when they start getting rid of 4G? Well, fortunately, 4G will last a very, very long time. So 4G will last a long time. So we don't have to worry about that. Do you really want to pay extra for 5G and then they have to spy on you? Are Ethernet connections safer for privacy than Wi-Fi? Well, yes, because you can't hack Ethernet directly on the wire. You have to be physically there. Whereas you can hack Wi-Fi remotely as long as you get the radio waves. Until WPA3 is out, and even WPA3 is still buggy, but assuming they fix the bugs in WPA3 someday, and WPA3 is accepted, and all devices support WPA3, then what will happen is that I can say that Wi-Fi need not necessarily be hackable. At the moment, that's not the case. All Wi-Fis are hackable. All. Every single one. No, I have not tried E. E's fine. Want to use E, use E. Buy their expensive phones. I choose phones that are more easily supported. Who do you trust? Such search engines. I use DuckDuckGo. I used to use StartPage. WPA3 is not yet stable, so it's been hacked. Yes, that's correct. And you can see that, people are afraid to install WPA3 in any router. So you still can't buy a WPA3 running router. So why is that? Because they're afraid of it. It's not stable yet. Can you de-Google any Pixel XL phones if it's OEM unlockable? So if you want to test it out before you send it to me, you say, test it out. See if you can OEM unlock it. If it is, then yes, I can do it. Dogpile for search, but it's loaded with ads. Should I use Bing? No, I don't use Bing. Why would you want to use Bing? Yes. DuckDuckGo has advertising and all that. It's fine. It's not targeted to me. So gotta allow them to make money. It's like Brave. You go to Brave, you get advertising. It's it doesn't mean anything. It's not targeted. So you got to use something. I don't use StartPage anymore. Is there such a thing as search engine isolation? Yeah, don't log in. If you log into Google and then you do your search, then yes, then somebody's tracking that. Bing for Linux searches stinks. StartPage was sold to some other company. I have no idea. How about Outlook over Gmail? Outlook's fine. They're all bad. So, yes, I use Outlook. I use Gmail. I use Yahoo. I use all of them. but for very limited purposes. Factory resetting a PC, formatting hard drives. It's not formatting, it's factory reset. Reinstalls the OS and leaves the drive empty again like original. Factory reset. Formatting is may or may not be done with, it could do a quick format. Be careful not to click search results uncritically with DDG. Anything you click on has potential. I mean, some of that is obvious. We're running out of base guy show. Now I feel like I got to play blue and green for you. Do you use Pi-hole? Yes, if you use my VPN, Bytes VPN, it's automatically provided with Pi-hole. So Bytes VPN is automatic Pi-hole. You don't have to install it. It's included in the VPN. All old people use Yahoo email because they don't know any better. Could be true. Is my Android phone I use for Tor browser, but I'm not sure I am anonymous because my keyboard might be recording all the onion domains I visit and send it to Google. I don't use any special keyboards. I use AOSP keyboard, open source. Keyboards are scary stuff. Yeah, if your keyboard source is not open source, I would worry about it. Maybe go install F-Droid and take a keyboard only from F-Droid. Otherwise, it's scary. Fact, people upload on average 500 hours of videos. Yahoo was first in search browser. How do you protect yourself from cyber stalking? Watch my doxing video. That's a very important question, although that's not the topic. But watch my doxing video and learn from that. At some point, I'm going to need to Lenny. Lenny is now Lunar Notebook. My goodness, how am I going to know that? Okay, you have to say it over and over. Older folks use Yahoo at a fairly high rate. Okay, I thought they were using AOL. I'm now fully switched to basic Android flip phone and a Libre booted ThinkPad T60. Good for you. Why does app ask for all the permissions beforehand? App could ask for specific permission when required, like a camera, because it interrupts the flow. So it's too many clicks if you got to do that. So it's a usability question. I don't know Ecosia. Newbie for privacy, Jules is troll the stalkers. What are your thoughts? True facts. Is Protonmail safe from Thunderbird on Windows and okay, 9mm stop stalking. I don't know. Hey, I can't talk about things like that. YouTube would demonetize me. The set looks spooky tonight. Does it look like Halloween? I didn't even think about it. It's kind of Halloween orange, right? Okay, guys, I'm running out of time here. So, running out of time. Bass guy, I play nothing like you. You play much better than I can. So, Bass Guy Show. Bass Guy Show, by the way, if you like to listen to music, Bass Guy will do a solo show. Solo. He plays all the instruments on his own here on YouTube. So, Bass Guy Show. Watch him. Follow him. Okay, so is there a Halloween show coming? No. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for watching. We're out of time, so I gotta go, and we'll convene in a video next Thursday as usual. So your channel is doing so amazing. Bass Guy Show. Somebody was saying to me how it's ludicrous that I only have 38,000 subscribers. So it was like so sad. It's like you only have 38,000 subscribers. It is sad, but it's a good start. It's a good start. So I'll try to do better. We'll work on that. We'll be at 40 in a couple of weeks. So 40,000 in a couple of weeks. Uh, so thank you. Next week video talk. I don't know, James Mason. We will see what happens. I don't decide that ahead of time. It depends on what happens. Thank you so much, and I will have a nice weekend, and I'll go sailing tomorrow. So if you can't find me, it's because I'm going sailing. Okay, good night, guys. Thank you.